Now, the Monkees' origin story is pretty straightforward on account of them being four relative strangers thrown together by Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider. The concept of creating the perfect pop group came to them after the Beatles popularised the idea of a self-contained musical group, of course raking in millions from records and merchandise. 1964's A Hard Day's Night demonstrated how their four distinct characters could be pushed forward on the screen, hinting at the full potential of a multimedia pop group that could branch out beyond mere music. And if making sure this worked as a formula meant sacrificing a degree of authenticity, then so be it. The Monkees were conceived from day one as a Hollywood, TV-first, music-second enterprise. To that end, in 1965, Rafelson and Schneider placed ads asking for four insane boys, aged between 17 and 21, to audition for the new project. Charlie Manson was rumoured to audition, but in fact did not. Stephen Stills did audition, but his bad teeth held him back, eventually recommending Peter Tork, who he knew from the Greenwich Village scene. Texan Mike Nesmith was also another aspiring musician who made the cut, joining Micky Dolenz and Davy Jones, who were pretty much nailed on for the parts as former child actors. They were, of course, not assigned musical roles in the band according to their skill level, but instead according to what suited their characters. It's often been said a better musical lineup would have featured Jones on drums, Tork on lead guitar, Nesmith on bass, and Dolenz as the frontman. The producers got this partially right, at least, by identifying Dolenz as a standout voice in the band, and his vocals certainly dominate their sound. The first season of the show debuted in September 1966, with their first album being released the following month. And like Head, the movie, it is impossible to talk about the music in isolation from the TV show, because the Monkees are, by design, a multimedia project. The show itself is fantastic. Not only was it shot on film, which gives it a vibrant, hyper-saturated Technicolor quality, it's well written, funny, and of course the music is top-notch. I'm led to believe the Monkees TV show was repeated on Australian television in the 90s, but my prevailing memory of it was having a single VHS with a few episodes on, including the one where Davy gets given a horse by a kid on the beach, and the Monkees have to hide it from their evil landlord, and the one where Mike gets a job in a toy factory. It was the kind of thing I watched a million times when I was a kid just because we had it, and I absolutely loved the humour and the music. Loads of really tightly written, well-produced songs set to footage of the Monkees horsing around. The songs act as independent little vignettes that usually related to the plot of the episode in question, as well as stand alone as music videos in the modern sense. From the get-go, they just had amazing tunes. It's high-quality entertainment, from the music to the show, which is genuinely funny and has high production values. Saturday's Child was always an early favourite of mine from this period in their career, and featured quite heavily in the show.
Monday had a sad child, always feeling low down. And Tuesday had a dream child, she's always on the go, so I'm in love with Saturday's child. She drives me wild, I'm gonna spend my time making sure that Saturday's child is mine. 7 days of the week made to choose from, the only one is right for me. I know that Saturday's got what it takes, babe, I can tell by the way she looks at me.
This song indeed featured on their debut album, which of course led with their first big hit, Last Train to Clarksville, written by Boyce and Hart. Initially tossed off as a Beatles copy, the song's faintly anti-Vietnam War lyrics, while fairly tame, are really pretty out there for the Monkees' first single, and in some ways telegraphs ahead to some of their more subversive work later on, and of course, Head itself. As ever, one good turn deserves another. and the Monkees apparently only learned of the existence of their second album, More of the Monkees, when they saw it themselves in the shops. To its credit, More of the Monkees is nowhere near as bad as members of the band would later claim, including the hits I'm Not Your Stepping Stone and two Neil Diamond classics in I'm a Believer and my personal favourite, Look Out, Here Comes Tomorrow. They also contain a fair amount of dreck. Your Auntie Griselda and Davy Jones's doe-eyed, syrupy showcase, The Day We Fall in Love, spring to mind. As promotional vehicles for the show, their first two albums certainly do the job, and for my money are much better than they really needed to be. They were also sent out to perform live as a group for the first time, after Micky Dolenz just about figured out how to play the drums. The compilation of live recordings from 1967 released in the 80s reveal them as a fairly shoddy live act, with Dolenz in particular struggling to keep up. I actually really like these recordings as a historical artifact, and the ramshackle playing is really quite endearing and in many ways appropriate for the kind of group they are. Not only do the Monkey Mania screams drown out the band for the most part, I can also really appreciate how exhilarating a 1967 Monkees live show must have been for your average teenage fan. I understand for its time the spectacle of a Monkees show in terms of lighting, staging, and overall presentation was actually quite ahead of its time. Anyway, due to unhappiness within the band as the result of being frozen out of production decisions and musical contributions on the first two albums, the Monkees dismissed Don Kirshner as musical director and took far greater production and instrumental roles for the albums Headquarters and Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn and Jones Limited, both released in 1967. People often talk about either of these two as their very best albums, and I would say they are, in the sense that perhaps they represent the Monkees in their most honest and perhaps true form. They do, however, still contain their fair share of filler, in my view. The majority of tracks on Headquarters, for example, are simply mid, with none of them being outright bad. Listening to it, I personally don't look forward to any of the tracks outside of You Just May Be the One, Zilch, which is basically just a skit, and the admittedly excellent Randy Scouse Git, a rare Micky Dolenz penned classic.
She's a wonderful lady and she's mine, oh mine. There doesn't seem a way that she won't come and lose my mind. It's too easy humming songs to a girl in yellow dress. It's been a long time since the party and the room is in a mess. The four kings of EMI are sitting stately on the floor. There are birds out on the sidewalk and a valet at the door. He reminds me of a penguin with few and plastic hairs, talcum powder on the letter. The birthday boy is there.
Now, I haven't mentioned how much I love Micky Dolenz's voice, and there is a very good reason he was given the majority of the lead vocals throughout their career. The guy really can sing anything, and to this day, just has this incredible sunny disposition that makes him, in my opinion, the most monkiest monkey, in the same way that Paul McCartney is the most Beatlesy Beatle. And like with the Beatles, where I grew up as a John guy, only to become a McCartney guy later on, I was initially a Mike Nesmith head, before I really came to appreciate Micky and how awesome and cute and awesome he is. So following on from that, Pisces is a very slightly better album in my view, and similar in that it contains plenty of decent, if not brilliant songs. I've always loved the polyrhythm and otherwise psychedelic vibe of Love Is Only Sleeping, and the similarly descending guitar riffage of the hit Pleasant Valley Sunday. Pisces was followed up in 1968 with The Birds, The Bees and The Monkees, an album which nobody ever talks about, mostly because it sucks. By this time, while their TV show was reflecting more and more the Monkees' own creative autonomy that they had gained in their music career, it had also run its course creatively and commercially, and was cancelled after airing its 58th episode in March 1968. Along with Bert Schneider, the Monkees teamed up with a pre-fame Jack Nicholson to map out the basic beats of a feature film that could act both as a spin-off of the television show as well as a finale of sorts. Already into his 30s and with a receding hairline to boot, Jack Nicholson had by this time resigned himself to a career behind the scenes, churning out low-budget, countercultural slop. On the very first day of shooting Head in February 1968, only Tork showed up, the other three staging a walkout over not being given ample screenwriting credits. The dispute marked the beginning of an overall difficult shoot and was perhaps the beginning of the end of the band's relationship with Rafelson and Schneider. It took 3 months to shoot, and during the editing process, they polished off the soundtrack for the album. So there you have it. In my view, the best album the Monkees ever released. I appreciate that's perhaps a slightly controversial opinion. As I say, most Monkees heads tend to plump for Headquarters or Pisces, usually because these were the albums where the Monkees were finally able to take control creatively, which is of course true, but in my view doesn't make them better than Head. In fact, I'd say Head goes one step further in that regard, in that it allows the Monkees themselves, by their very own hand, to dismantle and demolish themselves, which in itself is the ultimate act of autonomy, like how they commit suicide by jumping off the bridge at the start and the end of the film. This is self-immolation. Plus, on top of that, I would say that their finest studio album prior to Head still at most only has 5 or 6 songs up to the same standard found here. On your typical Monkees album, for every polished top-tier single, you've also got an underbaked, underplayed, and underproduced filler track. And while all their records, including Head, have super short running times, they are also characterized by the inclusion of comedy skits and studio banter to help pad things out. Sometimes enjoyably, sometimes not. I would say the filler tracks on Head are at least conceptual and contribute positively to the confusing, haphazard, and genuinely random atmosphere of Head as an album. It's worth giving Jack Nicholson his due for this also, as while the music on the soundtrack appears quite literally in the same order as in the film, he did chop up the dialogue and other snippets from the film especially for the album. So distinct from the film, the standalone soundtrack does have its own distinct internal logic, if not exactly a narrative. The film and the soundtrack indeed both work together and separately as standalone pieces of work. On release, the movie made $16,000 at the box office against a budget of $750,000, which without knowing anything about budgets and box office returns, I can say confidently that that's bad. Very, very bad. Bad Monkees. On top of a piss-poor promotional campaign, the film understandably alienated the teeny bopper Monkees fans while never even reaching the eyes and ears of the counterculture that it so desperately wanted to. At least until it very much gained a cult following in the subsequent years. Even now, I would jump at the chance to see a big picture screening of Head, although I probably would want to knock in a few psychedelic goofballs just to ensure I was really on the right wavelength. The album fared slightly better, but only made it to number 45 on the US albums chart compared to its musically inferior predecessor, The Byrds, The Bees and The Monkees, peaking at number 3. The Monkees' reign was well and truly over. No longer were they the kings of the jungle. Indeed, Head effectively, if not literally, spelled the end of their career. After Head, they first made the not very good 33 1/3 revolutions per Monkees TV special and album. Peter Tork left the band. They then released the also not very good The Monkees Presents, the not very good Instant Replay. Nesmith quit the band in 1970, leaving just Dolenz and Jones to release the not very good Changes, their last album of the Monkees' original run. Mike Nesmith was the only one of the four to have a significantly successful solo musical career, contributing significantly to the burgeoning country rock genre through his excellent work with the First National Band. Magnetic South and Loose Salute are well worth checking out. They had any number of semi-reunions throughout the years, but the only one that really matters is Good Times, released in 2016, a few years after Davy Jones' death. They continued touring in various combinations, with Tork passing away in 2019 and Nesmith in 2021, leaving Micky, everyone's favourite Monkee, the monkiest of the Monkees, as the sole surviving member and an appropriate torchbearer of their legacy. And what a legacy. They did fake before fake was cool, and on the way made mostly awesome stuff. If you liked this video, please do me a favour and hit the like button, but if you didn't, rather than hit the dislike button, can I suggest you leave a comment and let me know why? I'm always open to feedback, advice, and opinions that challenge mine, plus it apparently helps me game YouTube's algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it will let you know whenever I put something new up. You can follow me on all the socials if you're so inclined, and if you'd like to incentivize me with a $5 a month to continue doing these videos, a link to my Patreon should be just beneath this video. Cheers.